Bear Independent, brief, 21 February 22. Warnings have only increased over the weekend. Quote, as of this moment, I'm convinced that he's made the decision. We have reason to believe that, end quote, said President Biden at a press briefing, referring to Putin's option to invade Ukraine. He also said that if Russia pursues this, it will incite a catastrophic and needless war. The UK's Boris Johnson told the BBC, quote, I'm afraid to say that the plan we are seeing is for something that could really be the biggest war in Europe since 1945, just in terms of the sheer scale, end quote. He indicated that more sanctions would hit Russia from both the US and the UK, and that its companies would be stopped from trading in pounds and dollars. However, a sanctions bill has been stalled in Congress so that it appears as of now, no sanctions will be coming from Congress until at least March. 2 months ago, Forbes had pointed out that, quote, markets could dive on Russian incursion, end quote. The publication postulated that global energy prices would skyrocket, interest rates would drop, and the stock market propping up so many retirement accounts would plummet. The director of Global Macro at Academy, Peter Cheer, wrote, quote, markets would start putting higher odds on China or Iran doing something disruptive in the wake of any Russian actions, end quote. That further trepidation would only exacerbate the chaos that would spin out of a crisis in the Ukraine. What are analysts expecting next? Disinformation. And then within 24 hours of a physical invasion, a massive cyber attack against Ukraine to take down cell phone, satellite activity, and more. There's a significant electronic warfare capability on the border already. Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin reported, quote, if you're in Kiev, I've been told that you should go underground immediately and stay underground until all of this is over, which could be up to 2 weeks. Think Blitzkrieg during World War II. I'm told they're expecting up to 50,000 civilian casualties, end quote. Surrounding countries are preparing checkpoints to receive the millions of refugees that may flee such a conflict. There's still a possibility that war and all its global cascading effects at such a vulnerable time could still be avoided. Warmer weather makes invasion into Ukraine less likely due to the risk of muddy fields and trapping equipment. Recent reports say that the spring mud has made an early arrival this year. However, if a freeze sweeps through, the ground could harden enough to allow easier passage for the invading forces. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said that Vladimir Putin, quote, has not conducted another invasion in Ukraine yet, and we still think there's time to prevent that, end quote. And if you're on Patreon, you've got all the relevant links, and if you're not on Patreon, you don't. From thedrive.com, Russia officially recognizes breakaway Ukrainian regions as independent nations. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will decide whether or not to recognize the independence of 2 breakaway parts of the eastern Ukraine's Donbas region today. Doing so would be a huge new development in the current crisis surrounding Ukraine. Putin's announcement regarding recognition of the self-styled Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, also referred to as DNR and LNR respectively, came at the end of a televised meeting with his Security Council. This follows a recent spike in fighting along the so-called line of control that separates the 2 sides in the Donbas, as well as a stream of, at best, unconfirmed claims of Ukrainian aggression in the region and on Russian soil. Quote, a decision will be taken today, end quote, said Putin, right before the feed from the meeting cut off. This came after a train of ministers and other senior government officials had been called upon to make statements outlining the Kremlin's justifications for recognizing the DNR and LNR. Earlier in the day, the leaders of the pro-Russian separatists currently in control of those areas both issued new pleas to Russia for recognition as well as for military support. Putin, as well as others at the meeting, repeatedly accused Ukraine of failing to meet its obligations under the Minsk protocols, the best words today. This is a multinational framework intended to provide a path toward resolving the conflict in the Donbas, which first erupted in 2014 following Russia's seizure of the Crimea region. Authorities in Moscow and Kiev have long accused each other of ignoring or outright violating the terms of the Minsk agreement, which include a much-abused ceasefire agreement. In the past week or so, there's been a significant surge in exchange of artillery fire across the so-called line of control that separates the two sides in the Donbas. There's also been a steady stream of allegations from separatist officials and Russian authorities that Ukraine or its proxies have been carrying out or attempting to carry out a host of provocations, including acts of sabotage and shelling of targets inside of undisputed Russian territory. Just today, among other things, the Russian military claimed that it had destroyed 2 Ukrainian armored vehicles that crossed the border into Russia after purportedly carrying out an attack in Donetsk. Russian officials, such as the Ministry of Defense Sergei Shoigu and Federal Security Service head Alexander Bortnikov, brought up many of these purported incidents at the meeting with Putin today. However, Russian officials have yet to provide any hard evidence to substantiate any of these claims. The Ukrainian government, as well as U.S. officials and others, have said that these allegations are categorically false and are part of the Kremlin's efforts to build up pretext for a larger invasion of Ukraine. Article goes on from here. The big issue seems to be if Putin recognizes the DNR and LNR, they have reason to move even more troops in and or to provide assistance to these breakaway nation states within Ukraine. It just furthers the war agenda. And as we've talked about for weeks, months now, both sides seem to be, well, Russia certainly seems to be looking for an excuse, and certain elements within Ukraine, the separatists, are looking for an excuse as well for this thing to go to guns. It's already going to guns in some regions, but it may go broad scale to guns. Biden is convinced that Putin has made the decision for Russian forces to invade Ukraine. Poland has been cleared to buy another 250 M1A2 Abrams tanks. The government in Kiev, Ukrainian government in Kiev, is it Lviv is the name of that city, 340 miles to the west, 20 miles from Poland. Even more Russian troops have been moved around. They're moving, and in some cases, Russia's saying they're moving back to their home base. Well, their home base is closer, in some cases, the ones that is closer to Ukraine than where they were stationed around Ukraine, closer to the Ukrainian border, rather. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on right now. Other than that, it's basically SNAFU, situation normal, all jacked up. Keep doing the things, Bear Nation. Brief today. Thank you for supporting us at refugemedical.com. We appreciate you very much. You can use promo code BearNation for free shipping on everything in the store. SOB kits, small to back kits are in stock. There's a few adventure kits left in stock. Buckets are in stock. Bear Facts are 4-ish weeks out right now. Get them while you can. It definitely seems like there's a conflict coming, the scale of which I have no idea. And this is not me trying to scare you into buying a Bear Fact. This is me telling you straight up, we've already all experienced supply chain issues since 2019. I don't think they're going to get any better based upon what I'm seeing as a small business owner and based upon what I see coming on the macro scale around the world. So get your order in while you can. That's it. Shout out to the patrons. Thanks for watching the show today. I appreciate y'all very much. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.